What's up, guys? Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Figured I'd mess with y'all for a little bit. Anyway, what's up? How's everybody doing? We got a couple of Dawn of X books, and I figured, why the hell wait until friggin' midnight? Besides, honestly, I feel like playing a little bit of Minecraft tonight. So I'm saying, oh, I did get another comic book reviewed. It's done. I'm gonna post it tomorrow morning. Falcon and Winter Soldier. Try and get through a couple more tonight, whatever. But we're here about the Dawn of X books, right? So first up, we're going to do the New Mutants issue number 8. Then we're going to do one that I wasn't happy with, issue of the one shot of Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey and Emma Frost. Then we're going to get to this bad boy. Oh, X-Men and Fantastic Four, issue number 2 of 4. And we'll probably knock out this guy here, X-Force, issue number 8. And then my favorite one of the week, which is going to just be crazy. And I'm going to tell you guys a story that I was telling on Discord about how I would write it. The Nightcrawler situation. Bang! All right, so let's get talking about some good stuff up in here. Up in here. We got New Mutants, issue number 8. All right. And of course, we're interactive as hell. So, what's up to everybody who's in the chat? By all means, feel free to say what you got to say. And we'll take questions off of each one of the issues after I finish talking about the issues. So, throw your questions up or at least get ready to post them, for afterwards, after I finish with the individual thing. Ed Brisson is the writer. Marco Faila on art. Sorry, Marco. Not my fault. Carlos Lopez on color art, VC's Travis Lanham on letters, Tom Mueller on the design. The cover art is by Rod Reese. Boom. Head of X is Jonathan Hickman for all these. And this issue is called A Hunt and We Will Go, A Hunt and We Will Go. Hi ho, a mother effing Dario, cause a hunt we will go. Now, basically, this starts off really quick with Maxim and Maxine. Those two little, like, pure white French people. I'm just saying, French people are scary. French kids are super scary. I'm just joking, but no, seriously, for little white French kids who can go into your minds are super duper scary. Don't tell them I said that because I don't want them going in my mind, but I'm just saying. Ed Brisson did something very interesting in this book, and I think that for the most part, we can get into the idea of Ed Brisson doing this, even though it's going to seem like it's a huge break from the norm. But Sebastian Shaw in this book is a straight up G. And while we're all hating him in the Marauders, in this one, at the very least, we're reminded of just how freaking amazing he is. All right, how cool he can be, and why. Back in I think it was Powers of X issue number 5. That was when Professor X and Magneto confronted Emma Frost and said, "Listen, we want to offer you a seat on the Shadow Council. We're actually going to offer you 2 seats because we need you to start doing the trades." She's like, "You want me to be the East India Trade Company?" And they're like, "Yes, basically, you have to do all this stuff to get the trades going between, all the countries that we have good stuff going on." She says, "Why 2 seats?" It's like, "Well, we're going to need a shadowy operation, and that's going to be Sebastian Shaw. Yeah, sorry, I know you just got him out of the Hellfire Club. I need you to bring him back in because he has to do the underground stuff. So he's going to be the guy who deals with all the bad, people, because those countries, he's going to be dealing with the countries that don't want to give us the mutants, that don't want to make a deal, and don't want our drugs coming in. He's going to bring those drugs to the individual, smaller guys and whatnot. And of course, the Red Queen, that's Kitty Pryde, RIP. She's going to deal with all the other good stuff. This is one of those issues where you really get to see the Black King, Sebastian Shaw, do his business. As he walks into this freaking drug, and this is the best part of the entire comic book, and there's a lot of good stuff that happens in here, but he walks straight up into this drug organization, this cartel, and they're all like, "Yeah, we're the ones who sent the people to go and kill Beak in Nebraska because, whatever, man, we had the thing, and we're going to try and pull some stuff on you. Hey, whatever, but, whatever, who cares, right? Anyway, so let's do some business, right? It worked. I got your attention, right? Like, this is what you would imagine your typical TV cartel leader is all about. He's fat, he's pudgy, porchy, whatever you want to call him, and just sitting there, and he's, and like, yeah, I just killed a whole bunch of people. Like, what a jerk, man. I'm surprised Sebastian Shaw didn't straight up break his neck, but that's the trick about it. Sebastian Shaw doesn't want a quick death for you. Sebastian Shaw wants you to suffer. So he says straight up, "Yeah, dude, You can get as mad and whine and cry and flail and bitch and moan all you want, but at the end of the day, I just sold some stuff to your competitors. You wanted those drugs, right? Well, you can have those drugs if you buy them from one of your rival cartels because I just supplied him, not you. So pretty soon, all of your money, it's going to go to waste. You can try and have a drug war with them, but with the amount of money that they're already making from selling those drugs to everybody, yeah. Oh man, it's not just the government that they're going to overthrow. It's going to be you. And this guy's just like, what? And I'm literally thinking to myself, I would be okay if we didn't have any New Mutants in this comic book at all, and it was just Sebastian Shaw. If they just had like after that absolute badass, like he just dropped trow and pulled it out, and bang, mushroom tats for everybody in the entire audience. Nah, bro, I would have absolutely freaking loved it if this mother fathead would have walked up talking about, you know what? I dare you to shoot me with the guns. Oh, really? Bow, 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 bow. Now we'll whoop your asses. I just start pimp slapping everybody. Like I want him to pimp slap somebody where it actually gets kind of like bam. You know what I'm saying? Bam. Like he was just such a boss in this. He didn't fight anybody. And that saddened me. That saddened me. Instead, we got New Mutant action in here. But that was beautiful. Sebastian Shaw walked in. He just owned every single one of them and walked out. And everybody just left there like, uh, what do we do now? I know what all your employees are thinking, you stupid drug cartel owner. They're thinking we better go work for the yeah, the competition because I'm saying. So anyway, we also get a bunch of other stuff in here. There's this little blue mutant, and I think that we're going to see her later in the Children of the Atom issue #1 because she looks like that little girl that's on the cover. She looks like Nightcrawler. You know what I'm saying? She got all the things going, everything. She looks like Nightcrawler. I bet she teleports and everything too. Anyway, she was trying to get to this area close to Nova Roma. This is the area where what do you call it, in the Amazon, the Brazilian rainforest. So Nova Roma, that's the place where Magma is from. Yeah, on the front cover. And yeah, so Magma is from there. And this little girl's trying to get there, but she gets attacked by this freaky little Cthulhu looking thing and almost gets her, but it gets shot by some arrows. Now, this is important. This is very important to pay attention to because later on, some of the other mutants, like you actually see them here, Armor shows up and Boom Boom shows up, and they're going with Magma. It's like, oh, we're going to go and take care of some business up in here. So they go running up and they're like, yo, let's take out these bad guys. Like, there's of course the foil, like how do we get everybody into this, and basically they eventually decide to go there, and there's actually a really sweet moment between Magma and Boom Boom which I really liked, but they decide to go and trek through the woods to try and figure out where these animals are coming from, and it's like, rah, and they get into this big fight, and like Magma gets jacked and Boom Boom gets jacked. Armor's about to get jacked too because their powers just really aren't working on them. Armor at one point finally says, you know what, screw this, and just rips one of them in half. And it was a beautiful scene. I wonder if I could find that scene. It's right over here. It's on this next page. Look at this. Rip. And that's not a fart that she did. They actually put the K in the front to make sure it's not a fart, but like rip. She just rips one of these beasts in half. Afterwards, Boom Boom starts throwing bombs inside their mouths. Like, she's brave as hell. She threw her hand right up in there. There's a great comment that Boom Boom makes in here also, how she's been stealing Wolverine's hooch, which is freaking hysterical. Like, are you freaking kidding me? She's stealing his beer. She's like, well, he's using our old name. We were the first people to use the X-Force name. I'm laughing my ass off about that. Like, that was great. Oh shoot, there's something I actually forgot to mention in my spoiler review last week. Hold on. Stinger Earth hyphen 616. Boom. There's a no. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't want Cassandra Lang. I know. There we go. Wendy Sherman. Sorry, guys. I forgot to point out. Let me see if I can do a screen share on here so you guys can see this. Oh, yep, 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 yep. Boom. And click, click, boom. Right here. Wendy Sherman. Okay. This right here. I don't know if anybody else caught it. I caught it and I forgot to freaking say something. Disney Plus is available for pre-order in the UK and Cool. Anyway, so Wendy Sherman here, Stinger. A lot of people used to read the old Advanced Players Handbook for the Face Rip games, Marvel Superheroes Advanced Role Playing Game, and they used to see this picture in black and white and think it was Dazzler. No, it was Stinger. Anyhow, this character right here, whose first appearance was in X Factor issue number 5 back in 1986. I have that issue. Bioelectric manipulation. She is actually the first character to get the to have a baby. Well, she didn't have her baby yet, but she's the first X-Men X person mutant to actually get a baby bump. So she's pregnant. Holy crap. This was actually in, I think it was Okay, this was in the Sinister file, so I think this was the previous issue of Marauder. So Marauder's issue number 8, if I'm remembering correctly, which came out last week. I think it was in there. That was the first announcement. Mr. Sinister and the Bar Sinister, the Red Diamond White Pages thing. He was like, "Oh, and congratulations to Stinger because blah 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 blah." And it's like, "Oh, interesting. Okay, cool." So yeah, I forgot to freaking mention that, and I keep on forgetting to mention it, like in the live chat or whatever. So I'm looking at Boom Boom, and I'm like, she kind of looks like the one. So all of a sudden, just I remembered. Thank God, I at least finally remembered. Anyway, so she's the first. She if she actually has the birth, she'll be the first mutant born on Krakoa, which is freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. Anyway, so they wound up beating the crap out of these things because they realized mutant powers don't work on them directly. Indirectly, like ripping somebody in half, they work. That's how come those arrows in the beginning. Remember those? That's how come they worked. Anyway, so this was actually pretty interesting. All of it, yeah, I liked it. At the end, you wind up seeing this what do you call it? The Diary of Tabitha Smith. That's where Boom Boom's talking about stealing Wolverine's hooch. Anyway, this girl shows up at the end of this. Does anybody know who this girl is? Because I'm a little bit curious. She shows up and she's all like, "What happened to my beautiful monsters?" There we go, like this. "What happened to my beautiful monsters?" "Well, we're going to get them, my pretties. Yes, we are." She got all these freaking monsters, and they look like something out of like H.P. Lovecraft meets Dungeons and Dragons, and it's freaking awesome. She says, "I'll find them, and I'll make sure that I repay them in kind." So, does anybody know who she is? Because that's freaking wicked. At first, I thought it was Megan. It doesn't look like Megan at all. Megan was thick, with all due respect. She was thick. She was like, "Wow, how you doing, girl?" Anyway, no, yeah, I didn't think that this was Megan. There was no shape shifting involved. Does she have shoes on? This girl's got shoes on. Come on, you thought it was Megan? Come on, man. Megan McCain, maybe. All the respect in the world, but nah, that was definitely not Megan. Nobody saw anything. Nobody still hate. Oh, absolutely, you can hate Shaw, but no, it definitely can't be freaking Elsa Bloodstone. That's like the last person it could be. The Monster Girl versus the Summoner. Ugh, this Monster Girl versus the Summoner, or is the Summoner? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that's all good. Okay, so bang. Let's get talking about issue number 1 of Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey and Emma Frost. I didn't like this issue. This had some fun, it had whatever, but I'm going to get into that in a hot moment. So Jonathan Hickman himself wrote this, did the story and the words. Weren't very many words in here. Russell Dauterman did the story and the art. Matthew Wilson did the colors. VC's Clayton Cowles on letters. The design was Tom Mueller. Dauterman also did the covers. Bunch of variant covers on here. Actually, one variant cover. Two. There were 2 variant covers. Anyway, Nick Russell on production, and boom. Special thanks to Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly, because this was actually a reference to, I think, a new X-Men comic. I can't remember. Anyway, something like this happened where they went into Xavier's mind and they did a bunch of stuff before, so they're kind of rehashing that. You know what I'm saying? You're going into somebody's mind, you got to be like, shh, quiet on the set. Or you can just be like, Rexin effects in the Fex, and I'm the Wrecker. Anybody remember that? All I want to do is I'm a zooms. Anyway. So this issue is called Into the Storm. By the way, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created all of these freaking mutants. Well, pretty much did the original 6 mutants. Boom. So, they basically just, I don't know, man. Psychic Rescue, the whole thing. I just threw out the freaking page, but I showed like it's very easy to translate. They didn't really do a whole lot for you. What do you call it? Bunch of X-Men are flying around and they're like, "Arr," and then they're flying through Krakoa and they see Storm laying on the ground with a nosebleed. This big thing over here, it says silence, psychic rescue in progress, whatever. It's like it's cool, it's cool, it's cool. And then later on, it just winds up saying silence, just silence there. Anyway, so with that door open or whatever into Storm's mind, everybody's got to be quiet. It's funny here. Will Fredo, Comics Expertise, go and check out his channel. Um, he actually pointed out before I even read the comic book, he gets his books a day before me, bastard. He anyway, he points out that she went and gave what do you call it? They came together. They came together. Wolverine was already there, and she gives him a kiss on the cheek and whatnot. Maybe it's just like a thank you for being here. Maybe it's like you were pretty good last night. I'm saying, I'm saying, there's some stuff going on. All right, yo, let's just stop for a second and actually talk about this, okay? You got Emma Frost is over here also. All these guys are hanging out, and Emma Frost, Emma, she hanging there with the boobies hanging out. I mean, come on. She what have you? They're showing that Scott and Emma are still doing stuff, at least a little bit. Because there was the one part where he goes and he says, what happens? He says something like she says to him, like, do you ever want to be on the don't you ever want to be on the Quiet Council? And he says, no, I live to serve. And she's all like, oh, I know you live to serve, baby. It's like, whoa. So they're still acknowledging that they was banging. Right? That's just you're doing. And obviously Gene and Scott are banging now also, and they like, we gonna make some babies. And Wolverine was sharing some brews. I'm saying, Wolvie, Scott, and Gene. And he had a 6-pack. That's 2 beers each, which brings you to the bare minimum of the legal limit. I don't know what the legal limit is on Krakoa, but with these guys always boozing and banging bodies, I'm saying, like, they're all doing it. They're all doing it. Emma comes in once in a while, just be like, "Hi," yes, like they're all doing it. I don't want to hear it. I have no problem with this. There is no marriage, nonsense. Maybe that's why they just don't care anymore. They're just like, we're all going to do it, and who cares? All right, it's because there. So that's what's in my head. I'm not even looking at the comments right now. This is what's in my head, and you will not dissuade me from this. And man, how come I'm not a mutant? Anyway, so they go in to try. I had more fun talking about that than this. So listen, Daughterman was some of the most beautiful art imaginable, and I do apologize to the main man if he if like I didn't give nearly enough credit to how beautiful the art was, but I was really bothered by the story itself. I know there's going to be some people. I think I even saw in the chat people are like, "This is actually an homage to." It's not an homage, not a proper homage, if you don't give credit to where credit is due, right? If I just come up in here and I start reading a comic book and I'm telling you about the comic book and I don't tell you who made the comic book, is that fair that I'm not giving proper credit though? I'm saying, and I don't think it is. That's why I always give credit where credit's due, right? So I mean, when push comes to shove, it's like, mm, if you're making an homage issue, Mr. Hickman or anybody else, give the credit. This issue, it is homage to blah, 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 blah. This way I can read it in context. Otherwise, it's like an Easter egg for people who read that book before. And I read the book, but I wasn't even paying attention to that. And this was the idea that I came up with. This was the analogy that I came up with when I looked at this. If I would have known that this book was going to be like Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey, Emma Frost, and Storm, or Giant Size X-Men Storm, even. Because when I opened up this book, I had a little bit of a system shock. Because we talk about psychic rescue, and look at what it says in here. The island nation of Krakoa requires defense, and one of its greatest protectors is a mutant named Storm, a longtime defender of mutant kind. Storm recently fought Okris and the Children of the Vault with the X-Men. So what does that have to do with Emma Frost and Jean Grey? Then you realize that they're just going in there and they're really more like backup characters looking into the mind of Storm. This was a Storm comic book. It doesn't matter if she was conscious in this or not. Everything in this comic book revolved around Storm. and Wolvie getting a peck on the cheek. I'm saying, like this was no. I'm going to tell you how this book would have been better in my mind, and I already said it in the individual review. If this was issue number 8 of the X-Men, okay, instead of actually like, look, this week we could add 2 issues of X-Men. Here's issue number 7. Give me issue number 8 of X-Men also. Same week, next week, however you got to do it, and then I'm not focused on the fact that it's titled Jean Grey, Emma Frost. That's you could have the exact same comic book, just simply change the title, same cover and everything, and suddenly I'm good. I'm good. It's as simple as that. It really genuinely is for me. But you got my hopes up that this was going to have something to do with these two trying to deal with, oh, well, here's Scott, and we're going to have to share him. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we do. Do we share them? Do we work with each other? All the problems that we had in the past, let's have a psychic connection with each other and have a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Maybe all this hope that I've got, in my mind, all these ideas I've got in my mind, what they're going to be doing. Instead, it's like, oh, we're going to go in and barely say anything. We're going to try and help Storm. We're going to see all these cool things about like Wakanda and the Panther goddess and all these other things in our minds, and how she really likes Jean, really doesn't like Emma, and we're going to see all this stuff. It was pretty much 90% revolved around Storm, and she's not on the title. She's not on the cover, not on the main cover. This is the main cover. So no, I'm sorry. I just didn't like this comic book. At the end of the day, the Children of the Vault wind up giving some kind of a poison to some kind of a virus uh, again, look at the art. God, it's beautiful. An elephant with butterfly wings. Man, who thinks of stuff like this? It's beautiful. But at the end of the day, and I also, again, I really like the idea that I'm not going to try and find the issue, but the page, but they actually had the symbol of her original headdress on, because she doesn't have the headdress anymore. But remember back in the original days of the new X-Men when she had her headdress on all the time. Aurora always had her headdress. So there's a part where maybe I should just try and find it, where they go into the freaking place, and it's like you see the yeah, they're trying to make some kind of a weirder. There it is, right on top of the tree. They see the like the tree in Wakanda or whatever, where it's like there's the headdress. That's great. I loved that. Little things like that. That was great. They had a lion smile, which is like what? Whatever. I'm good with it. I'm good with it. A whole bunch of crazy stuff in here. Blah 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 blah. And then you see this. She doesn't actually really come out of the thing, or maybe she does. No, actually she doesn't. She doesn't actually come out of the thing. This is just in general. When she came out, she wound up having this virus. So she's got some kind of a version of the techno-organic virus, whatever it is. They actually explain it at the very end when Emma and Jean come out. The Children of the Vault gave Storm a machine virus that's going to kill her in the next 30 days. We ought to talk. Yeah, we ought to talk, since nobody talked in this entire freaking comic book until the last page, pretty much. This was a whole big thing about having a stroke because of the well, Fred, are you having a stroke? You ought to call 911 instead of be typing on here, man. I'm saying. Okay, here's a comic book that did not disappoint me, but I mean, clearly it wasn't going to be as good as the first issue. I mean, that first issue was just amazing. But anyway, yeah, we got all sorts of cool stuff in here. Oh, I like how Storm's Guardians identified friend from foe using Jean's interaction with Storm in the Inferno event, and Emma swapping bodies with Storm. But I agree, this could have been X-Men issue number 8. Nero Black, yeah. Thank you for agreeing. But at the same time, yeah, you're right. There was a lot of really great stuff in here. I just feel like, I just really feel like this could have been so much better. What are you having you just having what's my man Wilfredo having? Except Logan's always been on the outside. Calm, dude, calm. Yeah, this feels like it could have been Storm's story told in a regular sized issue. Devil's Triangle. That's funny. Let's go back down here. Oh, okay. Children of the Vault. Who's got the? You can realistically just look up on the internet, Google search Children of the Vault space Earth hyphen 616. Boom. I can't remember if I ever worked on any of the pages for that, but that's the Marvel database. It's a wiki. It's not Wikipedia, but it's a wiki page, so it's all fan created. I'm one of the fans who worked on a lot of those pages. So you'll be perfectly fine if you look up the stuff there. You can literally see a timeline, first appearances. If you want to go back and grab some first appearances in, your local comic book store, or whatever, everything that you need is going to be right there. In my opinion, the Marvel database pages are the best pages to find out about your Marvel characters ever. The DC fan base pages, the database pages, are simply not as good, unfortunately. But a lot of that has to do because they really go out of their way to separate New 52 from the rest of the universe, and that's a real freaking shame. No worries there, bud. Okay, so we're going to get into X 4 plus X on here. Let's see if I can actually find the main page. Here we go. Chip Zdarsky on writing, Terry and Rachel Dodson doing the pencils. Well, Terry Dodson doing the pencils, and Rachel Dodson with Carl Story and Ransom Getty doing the inks. Laura Martin doing the colors. Letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. The Dodsons both do the cover. Bunch of variant covers, whatever. And bada bang. Okay, so I also don't see a head of X on here. Oh, Carlos Lau doing production. Yeah. But I don't see head of X. Wait a second. No. Did Hickman not have anything to do with this? Yo, I do not see Hickman's name mentioned in these credits. What's up with that? That's interesting. Okay, so this issue is called Chapter 2. This issue is called Broken Borders. The time is now. So Scott is in direct communications, like hologram communications with the Fantastic Four, and basically they're not hearing what he's saying. He's like, "Listen, your kids aren't on our islands. The Marauder was, the ship. The Marauder was heading out such and such and such. We don't know where it is. It went off the map. We can't find it. We're going to go and try and find it. Your kids are not here, though. All right. It's facts. So I don't know what to tell you. All right. And he's even trying to help out a little bit more as best he can. And he's saying, listen, honestly, I want you to understand, even though Franklin would be welcome here, Valeria is not, because she's not a mutant. He's like, oh, only mutants welcome and not blah, 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 blah. So it's like, whoa now. Whoa now. Yes, this is a form of racial segregation, bigotry. You could even call it racism. Sure. But at the end of the day, it was meant to be a little bit more of a proof that we do not have your kids here. Okay. We don't want non-mutant kids running around our island. Sorry. That's just the way that it is. And maybe that's just a temporary rule. Maybe it's a long-term rule. Who knows? But it's like jumping to arguments and rushing to get angry. It's so pointless. Unfortunately, Susan Storm, she is really all over the place right here, and it does fit her character. I don't think I would ever argue with Chip Zdarsky that he would write something out of character for Susan Storm. You feel me? So yeah, I'm just like, whatever, man. Like it's good. It's good. She's really flipping her lid, and she does her lid, and she is talking about there's so much racism here. I can't believe it. You know what? I'm not going to deal with a racist. You do also have to recognize the idea that whether continuity and Jordan White or whatever editor has been in charge, blame Chris Claremont since the beginning of this version of the X-Men, anything, the X-Men books, we're talking in real life, the X-Men comic books, the editors and everybody have always kept them separate from the other characters. All right. For the longest time, Wolverine all of a sudden decided to start joining, the new Avengers teams and stuff like that. But for the most part, they were always separate. Even when you think of something like the Infinity Gauntlet, when I interviewed Starlin, he talked about how, yeah, originally the X-Men editor was like, you can't have any of the X-Men for your event. It's like, listen, I got people from everybody. It's like, okay, you can borrow Wolverine and Cyclops. Don't do anything special with them, and we'll get them back, and then whatever, we're good. He literally had to, like, the compromised position was you can have Wolverine and Cyclops. Wow. So it looked like all the X-Men had disappeared in the snap, or the X-Men didn't care about the Universal event. You could play this multiple ways, and I know that this is an X-Men chat, but I'm a fan of the comic books, Marvel, DC, everything, Captain America, Scott, all of them. I'm not an individual. I'm only gonna like I'm not gonna stand out for any particular group. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be looking at the comic books as a whole. So I love the comic books as a whole. I recognize that Captain America being written by the X-Men writers is going to be a very different Captain America than in the non-X-Men books. So there's that. Anyway, in this particular case, back inside the comic books, Sue Storm, or we do still have to recognize that Sue Storm, all of Fantastic Four, all of them, they haven't ever helped the X-Men before. Not really, you know? So when push comes to shove, she could say that they're racist all they want, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like you got Native Americans all stuck on a crappy land, and you start poking them all the time, and you force them to go there and whatnot, and you don't accept them anyplace else, and then they turn around, they start talking about, all right, tenderfoot white man, you really going to call them racists? Really? You know what I'm saying? Like it's sure it fits the description, but come on, brah. So in this particular case, yeah, Sue Storm, written in character, but she's not in her right head, and she's clearly jumping the gun and saying wrong things. The Johnny Storm is still like he's a hothead, but and clearly a hothead, but he's still using his brains at least a little bit in this, and he's mostly on the Thing's side. But the Thing, Ben Grimm, is the one who's typically got the best head in this case, and he's still reminding Stretcho, it's like, listen, bruh, you screwed up, Mr. Fantastic, you're the one who screwed up. All of this is happening because of you. So we're going to help you out because we're a team. That's what we always do. And that's what Johnny Storm says also. That's what we always do. We're the four. We're, of course, going to, go and try and get our kids back. But, dude, Stretcho, this is 100% your fault. Ben, man, honestly, in my opinion, Ben Grimm is the best teammate you can ever have. He's kind of like Wolverine with Scott. He's going to keep the dude in check. And sometimes he gets a little bit overboard, but sometimes so does Scott. But nobody exemplifies that better than Ben Grimm with any team that he's in, for the most part. I didn't really like the Civil War, his stance on the Civil War. I'm just going to go on vacation in Europe. That didn't sound like Ben Grimm to me. But, for the most part, Ben Grimm is just like, brah, wrong answer. You know what I'm saying? So Dr. Doom has his own island. Now, he's got a really cool name for it. It's called Doom Island. Because, I mean, come on. This is the most brilliant mind in the face of the planet, but he's got horrible marketing. like this dude, is this not like Trump? Like Mar-a-Lago. I'm surprised it's even called Mar-a-Lago at this point. Shouldn't it be called like Trump-a-Lago or something like that? Everything this dude does is Trump, Trump, Trump. And realistically, that's mostly because he sells the name to other people and they just use the name. But in this particular case, like Dr. Doom is freaking Dr. Trump in this case. Doom on everything. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have Doom pills and Doom bots and Doom guns and Doom gum. Imagine if there was Doom gum. Would you chew Doom gum? I'm saying, would you blow a Doom bubble? Because when that Doom pop happens, you know what I'm saying? Like that's going to be something else. So Dr. Doom is hanging out with all these guys. Now, oh, here's something. Reed Richards' 6-digit journal entry. Because yeah, I believe that he would at least have more than 500,000 freaking journal entries. Anyway, if you all of these dots represent 50 mutants. Oh, I missed it. All these dots represent 50 mutants. So if you're interested in counting every single one of these dots, you can get a very, very, very close approximation of exactly how many mutants with a 50. Actually, more of a, because one of them is a half a dot on here, within a 50% margin of error. Actually, not even 50%, because that would be stupid. Within a 25 mutant margin of error. I'm saying, if you felt like jumping on these dots, all right, that's all you. So yeah, anyway, they're on Doom Island. So Kitty is basically being gaslit in here. You want to look at this, by all means. Kitty is being gaslit by Doom on here, but so are the kids. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of it is because Valeria at one point in here, she goes and she mentioned, like, Franklin is like, I don't know if I trust Uncle Doom, but Valeria knows that she's got Doom wrapped around her little finger. The trick is, he's also got her wrapped around his finger. You know what I'm saying? He says something and she's thinking, he would never hurt me. She even repeats it in here. He would never hurt us. You and me, Franklin, he would never hurt us. No, that's true. But he's never gonna miss an opportunity to screw over Reed Richards. You know what I'm saying? So It makes sense. I'm saying it makes sense. Um, what do you call it? All these guys are involved here. They're all hanging out. They're all doing whatever they're doing. The X-Men are trying to figure out, okay, we've got to try and find out where these kids are because we don't want to piss off the Fantastic Four. All right. And Kurt goes and mentions, hey, they could be right here. They do have an invisible woman on their team, right? And suddenly it's quiet. Everybody starts thinking. They start looking at each other. Scott didn't think of this first, which is hysterical. But right over here, Magneto decides to break down the metal chairs that are around him and put them into the air all over the place so that he could start like feeling what's around here. It's funny. I'm just going to say that in general, this works because realistically, Magneto has one power that unfortunately not a lot of people pay attention to. I know there's the telepathy. He does have the telepathy, but only when the helmet's off. He had his helmet on here. One of the powers he's got is the ability to detect the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, what this does is anything that's around him, he knows it. If something's moving particularly fast, he can still see it by feeling it, by feeling its movement with the electromagnetic spectrum. The only reason why Wolverine sometimes is able to sneak up on him is when there's a lot of movement around him and he's paying attention to all these different things. And Wolverine's just like, I'm going to wait for the perfect opportunity. I gotcha. It's like, oh, I'm going to suck the metal out of your freaking bones. I'm saying. But for the most part, like, you can't get the jump on Magneto if it's one-on-one or if everything's calm. You can't. So maybe Chip missed that. Either way, they're wearing suits. The Fantastic Four, they're wearing specialized suits. As long as everything is closed, they've got their own air system in there. Clearly, they've got it. They've got to have their own atmosphere inside of there for that thing to be closed. So they got respiration taken care of. They, as long as that's closed, they've also got protection against psychic detection. But the electromagnetic detection doesn't make sense unless I guess we're just going to have to use headcanon and say, well, I guess it also somehow not just deflects because Magneto would notice a deflection. What's funny is you'd figure, no, a blank spot in a psychic detection that wouldn't work unless it was a group. Like here's a group of like a stacked room, and this block in here. Hey, how come there's a hole there? I don't see any holes. So I see people there. How come? Whose mind am I not reading? But something like this, I don't honestly, I don't know how this would work. Somehow the electromagnetic spectrum just goes right through them because I don't know if you can make yourself invisible to the electromagnetic spectrum. Like that's a little something different there. Anyway, so that's what's basically happening. Somehow Reed, super smart, is able to make these suits that do that. On top of that, Sue is making all of them invisible to begin with. And when Magneto is trying to figure out, hey, there's this, that, and the other thing, Ben Grimm's like, hey, traditionally evil guy, and he just socks Magneto and sends him flying. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that they made Ben Grimm act first, but it is what it is. Anyway, yeah, Magneto sees, you can see the silhouette of Ben Grimm behind him and whatnot. It's awesome. Anyway, so I'm not a huge fan of that, but it is what it is. So there's a big old fight between the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and since it was like a snuff, it was a surprise attack. And they're smart enough to know, let's get the heck out of here. Oh, Nightcrawler gets a killer shot on freaking Reed, man. That was all. He's just like, bam, boom. Like Nightcrawler's not that strong. Nightcrawler's simply not that strong. But he sends Reed, who wasn't expecting it. Boom. He gets a good old socko on him. Colossus shows up, and he is just as strong, like equally as strong as Ben Grimm. Ben has possibly shown himself to get stronger, but he's also shown himself to get stronger. The trick is that Colossus is more durable than Ben Grimm is. It's not a whole lot, but any amount of durability is better. The thing is that the Thing has more endurance. He's got more willpower than Colossus, so there's that. Anyway, what do you call it? Wolverine winds up opening up the suit. I was kind of hoping that meant that the other guys would be able to get in and like control him psychically. Anyway, what happens is that Emma Frost notices a breach because Sue Storm winds up getting knocked unconscious. So Reed's like, wait, I've got an idea. We'll be able to get him to get her awake if she's got like a psychic boost, just any kind of psychic intrusion, and all of a sudden, bang, she'll wake up. because her powers are psychic based. So he cracks the lid just a little bit and closes it again, just enough for Emma to be like, "Oh, I detect one of them!" Boom, and then Sue wakes up, and then she can use her force field and invisibility again. They get off the island. This was weird that these four are able to take down all of these mutants, all of these X-Men, but you can't discount the power of Sue Storm. So I do like that they were focused, like heavily focused on the idea that if Sue is still unconscious, we don't have a chance. Even getting away, we don't have a chance. A full retreat, we don't have a chance. Her waking up, she can take out a Sentinel by herself. Forget about a Sentinel, a Celestial by herself. I'm saying, I'm just saying. So that works for me. That works. They really were just trying to get away. If it came down to an all-out fight, nah. Even with just the X-Men present, if it was an actual stand toe-to-toe fight, X-Men are taking this. But this could turn into an international incident because literally, like, I'm actually hoping that at some point they actually go with a story where the United States is like, listen, FF, you just became a liability because you're constantly going into foreign territory in Latveria. You just did it at the beginning of this Fantastic Four run. You just did it again. You keep on going into other people's territory, not recognizing international borders, and now you just did it with the young nation island nation of Krakoa, and we're getting all these drugs that our citizens are extremely happy with. There should be I'm saying, if we're being fair and we're actually doing some amazing story writing here, if I'm writing this, I'm going with that. I'm going with the United States having like the people versus the Fantastic Four, because Krakoa should put sanctions on the United States until and argue that the Fantastic Four should be turned over to them for justice. The US would say, no, let's not do that. That's a little bit too far. We'll punish our own citizens. But man, yeah, we are going to punish these guys. I would love to see that story being explored. And we might. Wait until I get to the X-Men book. Woo! Got a story for you. Now here's where things get stupid. And I don't mean stupid in a bad way. I mean like the Urban Dictionary version of stupid. Doctor Doom decides to create Sentinels in his own image. Yeah, I loves me some Doctor Doom, but Homeboy better have himself a great reason for this, and I don't imagine any great reasons for that. Oh, man, he's dumb. So X-Force. Oh, let's actually talk about what happened here. Exodus versus Invisible Woman would be nice to watch. Hell yeah, if he showed up. But you're not being fair. All the Avengers and the X-Men constantly invade other nations. This is true. This is not my argument. The Initiative. This is not my argument. What I'm saying is that right now, other nations who you've got whatever, some kind of relationship with, whatever. I get it. If you're talking about Latveria and whatnot, hey, nobody likes them. That could be, put off the record for the most part. I mean, but we also do notice that with Spider-Man, in Dan Slott's Spider-Man book, mind you, Dan Slott, who's also writing the Fantastic Four, he made it so that S.H.I.E.L.D. disowned Spider-Man. They said, listen, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, whatever, we're not going to be dealing with Parker Industries anymore, whatever they were called, the Parker and PI. Anyway, we're not going to be dealing with you anymore because you just invaded sovereign territory. So like, I hear you saying I'm not being fair. Here's the question. I don't think you're actually thinking this all the way through. The same writer who did that could also do this. And realistically, my argument could stop right there. But no, thinking the thought all the way through, it only makes sense that Latveria, who's not doing anything for the United States, it's like, oh, maybe we could forget, because I mean, whatever. But when you're talking about Krakoa, who's giving us these 3 drugs that's extending human lives and increasing our well-being. Holy crap, dude! Who needs Medicare for all when you've got these drugs coming in? And you don't think that the X-Men should say, or that the Fantastic, or what do you call it, that the mutants should say, that the Krakoans should say, we are going to break off relations with America inside of 14 days. if you don't turn over the Fantastic Four and then actually make this a great storyline. Sorry, bro. You and I, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this. Um, okay, and you know what? I don't know why I even wasted my time making this argument on you. Sue Storm can absolutely not take on a Celestial. Yeah, there's this guy called Jonathan Hickman who's the head of X who had her take on and one shot a Celestial. Read more comics, bruh. Love you. Anyway, so well, I took you on as a serious comic book reader. I know we can't read everything, but for crying out loud, the Hickman run on the Fantastic Four was a big deal. Definitely ask questions before you make statements. Otherwise, you get what you get. Nah, you don't make a statement. This cannot happen when it happened. It's in print. I've got the damn volume right over here. Shoot, shoot. What are you thinking about, son? Okay, comics expertise with the $5 super chat. Thank you, brother. As Scott in chat, and the FF were lucky Apocalypse wasn't around. Though that would have been overkill alongside Magneto. Also, Jean would have had Sue down quick. Possibly. It's my understanding, and I could be wrong because things change. Um, what do you call it? Pull out the volume. I'm gonna pull out something else and give you a mushroom shot, son. You know what? Everybody in chat, put this guy in check because I know most of us read the Hickman run. This dude's never read a freaking comic book in his life. He's read it anyway. So check it out. What do you call it? And you know what? Honestly, I'm about to just silence you for not even paying attention to the facts. You're actually annoying me in the chat right now. What do you call it? With what was the see? This is what I'm saying. I believe that Sue's force field is different than a lot of other people's force fields because it is 100% psychic in nature. Not just, focused through the mind or something like that, actually psychic in nature. She doesn't have to do this to put up the force field, even though it looks good on camera and in comic books and whatnot. It's purely a psychic ability. And that's been explained in the Fantastic Four comic books also. So when you have what do you call it? A psychic attack on her. It's like, hey, I can also protect against psychic attacks. I don't know if anybody's ever done differently than that, but I have seen other things. Anyway, so yeah, boom. There's that. Um, don't know where that comes from, but anyway, so we're good. So anyway, let's get on to because I don't see any more questions in here about the book in and of itself. So, but a bang, X-Force issue number 8. So we get to see this fake Domino. She's like completely reverse Domino, and I love that. But she is one of those genetically made up creatures, which is very interesting because she actually like pulls that part from her ear, and we saw that she pulls the part from her ear that we seen in previous X-Force comics, and she pulls out like some of the string to turn it into a Garrett. Now she's going to go in and she's going to kill this one guy who is expecting is going to be able to sleep with her. The problem is Domino Actual is in there and she handles this thing with the quickness, and I freaking love that. What do you call it? So bang. Anyway, takes them out. Really quick, Benjamin Percy is the writer. Oscar, it just says Basil Doa, but it's Oscar Basil Doa on art. It's like the Vince McMahon of things. Let's just take away everybody's first name and just give them one name. You know what I'm saying? Guro FX on color art, VC's Joe Caramagna on letters, Tom Mueller on design, Dustin Weaver and Edgar Delgado doing the cover art, Nick Russell doing the production, and Jonathan Hickman is the head of X. On this one again, this issue is called A Game of Dominoes. So anyway, it turns out that this is not the only one. We thought it was just one of these luck dragon type monsters going after all of these people who were pro-mutant. Here's a guy who's going to vote, in Senate or whatever the heck he was. He was somebody special who thought he was going to get a side piece, and it turns out, no, you got a piece pulled on you and you're about to get a bullet to the head. Anyway, so Domino kills this thing, brings it in, and bang, starts tearing it apart. Look, here's all these things. but Sage goes and points out, hey, this thing's actually got your DNA woven into it. So it's not just the idea of certain skin grafts in order to hide appearance and make it look like, oh, it's actually just Domino entering the Krakoan airspace. No, 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 no. This is actually like your DNA woven in with its DNA. Okay, interesting. So this gives it luck powers, the powers that Domino used to have. Now she has her anti-luck powers in this particular case. Now here's something that's interesting. Mind you, I actually used to work with satellites back in the day, GPS specifically. So I did have a point of contention with this, but whatever, it's a comic book. She goes and points out, hey, I found a four-leaf clover. Now this is interesting. She says, all my life I found four-leaf clovers. Sage goes and points out, oh, only 1 in 10 um, what do you call it, flora in, history, whatever, actually has 4 leaves. Some have 2, some has 3, saying whatever. I remember growing up, it's like poison ivy has 3 leaves. Well, apparently most things have 3 leaves. So I was tricked as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like everything's poison ivy. But anyway, like the whole vine thing. Anyway, so she points out I've always found 4-leaf clovers, and I haven't found one in a long time. And I'm hanging out, and all of a sudden I find a 4-leaf clover. It's almost like killing this thing brought me back just a little bit of my luck ability. Oh, now I'm having fun with this. All right, cool. So Sage goes and takes that to the next level, and she discovers that, the thing where they say that with a satellite, you can read the date off of a vine, right? Off of a vine. You can read a date off of a dime, a vine. Sorry, we're going to get to vine in a little while. So actually, no, that was over here. Anyway, so the trick is, how do you find that dime? You only find that dime by knowing exactly where the dime is. It's like, oh, hey, I'm focused down here, put the dime there, and I'll see what the date is on it. You can't find a dime. That would be like finding a needle in a needle stack, So the tech doesn't quite work out, but we're going to say it's Sage, so of course she's going to be able to figure out how to do this. She finds all along a Chinese rail line, there's a whole string of 4-leaf clovers just showing up. It's like, oh, interesting. So she realized that these guys are, taking advantage of the moving target thing. It's hard to kill somebody from a moving target, and they're putting them all on this train. They're going to go off and they're going to kill some people. They're going to try and get away. They're going to try and avoid detection. All these different things that they've got plans for. What they didn't plan for is that Colossus was not going to commit suicide, because he comes up and he's thinking about committing suicide. It's like, if I were to hold you, give you one last hug, and we were to I were to turn into my steel form, my osmium steel form, and we were to dip into the water, man, you would we would both wind up dying. Now, I was under the impression that he could breathe in that form, but then again, there's so many different versions of Colossus out there with, like, specifically with the new universe stuff. Oh, you can pull out his organs and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm trying to remember back to the X-Men versus Fantastic Four, those 4 issues way back in the day, where it's like, dude, anyway, so apparently, like, they're suggesting that he tried to commit suicide. Now, with a lot of people are blaming Gail Simone for the recent Domino comic book and the Domino Hot Shots. I think that was a 5-issue limited series. And they're arguing that, oh no, this is not cool. They've got Domino actually being a little bit weak in here. She's not the cool, tough Domino who's kicking butt and taking names, right? Okay, I get it. So that wasn't actually Gail Simone who did that. She was writing the comic book, but she got the idea from the way that Domino was written by Greg Pak in the Weapon X comic book. So that's important to remember. She actually liked that so much that she makes the suggestion to Marvel, hey, why don't you let me write this version of Domino, a version of Domino who's actually capable of having fun. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. But there were a noisy amount of people who did have a problem with that. Cool. You got what you wanted. You won, because you've got a much more gritty version of Domino on here. It points out how, the argument that a lot of us made, if she were to just let herself die, if the X-Men would just kill her, if she were to go through Crucible, we're going to get to that, then guess what? She could come back hopefully have her luck powers. Here they're suggesting that they wouldn't, but she would be able to come back and not have all these body malfunctions. She'd be able to have her eye back and everything. The trick is she says, no, I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. I want to feel the pain. If I do die, and she was about to die in here, says, if I do die, then I don't want to forget all of this stuff. I don't want you to resurrect me before all this pain. I want to be remembered afterwards. You know, saying I want to remember everything. So when they show up on this train and all these monster versions of her, basically with her DNA wrapped around, and these guys are the perfect killing machine. Domino's tough as nails, and she's good to go against these things. And for the most part, you ain't taking down Colossus. So there was a really fun moment on here where Colossus just runs up and he grabs onto the train. And somehow the way that I'm gonna imagine it is, this has got to be my headcanon. All of these guys with all of their luck in there, it's like, hey, look, we've got luck. So shouldn't they have been able to jump off the train, or some way they were lucky and they were saved? No, I'm gonna say no for two reasons. One, she was there, Domino was there, and she's the anti-luck. So maybe those luck powers don't necessarily work on her. Maybe she's making it so that those luck powers are stretched out of proportion. Maybe she's absorbing them back when she's there. Maybe they all died first and she was almost there, so she wound up getting her powers back. Who knows? But my headcanon is her presence being there amongst them, they weren't able to luck their way out of this. So anyway, that's what winds up happening at some point. She she winds up almost dying in here, and Colossus winds up essentially saving the day. Awesome. I'm totally down with that. So now we're pretty much at a blank space where we don't know what's about to happen next. Oh, wait, here's the guy with the dragon tattoo. The guy with the dragon tattoo is sitting here chilling out, and much like I get once in a while, somebody who tries to take over a conversation, guy jumps up and he's like, "Hey, how much did all this stuff cost us?" It's like the guy with the peacock tattoo on his hand and the face mask, where they actually try to explain what the mask is possibly made of. He's just, it's like he's trying to explain Medicare for all. And it's like, how are you going to pay for it? So this guy screams out, how much is this costing us? He's like, I'm sorry. This is like the guy with the peacock tattoo. He's Canadian because he just says, I'm sorry. He doesn't say, hey, shut up, mother fathead. That's how I know he's not from Jersey. This guy's just like, I'm sorry. So he's like, I said, how much did this cost us? So he's trying to argue, but he's like, our friend is giving us an attitude and blah, 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 blah. Now, we don't actually get to see, here's the final page. We don't actually get to see who this person is, but he has some kind of control over something. He causes this big dude to slip. His freaking arm twists backwards. Like over on this side, he's in really bad shape. Look at his arm back here. It's completely backwards. He just gets broke, bruh. So he's not having a very good day. And the guy with the peacock tattoo, he's like, oh, I could potentially be in trouble here. So is this guy a mutant? That would seem odd in this particular retinue of people. Would a mutant be in this group? Maybe it's an altered human of some sort. I don't know, but that's interesting. So there's a new player on the field. We were all worried about this guy with the peacock tattoo. Somebody worse shows up. So is there anything else before I get into my favorite book of the week? Because holy crap, and the way that I would do this. Who do you think was the guy bullying the peacock? I didn't hear that's a big thing. Anyone else notice in this book and in X-Men, they talk about Krakoa not being a democracy? Yes, I did notice that, J-Day. Let me just, pop. Could it be Dracula? I don't think it's Dracula, but that would be pretty interesting. Hope it's not Dracula, he says. This is, yeah, that's fine. Not everything has to be necessarily a democracy, as long as, it's agreed upon that this is the way that things are going to work. There have been benevolent nations, especially in the beginning. There have been benevolent nations that are actually a monarchy. The problem is usually the hereditary aspect of the power. Because these guys clearly aren't a democracy. It's not even a republic. Like America is a republic, not a democracy. There's a democratic vote, which isn't actually, if you look at the delegates and stuff like that. But when you look at it in general, this country, America at least, was founded as being a republic, which means the people get to vote for who's going to be in charge of the country. And the trick is that you have to try and figure out which one of these guys which one of these people running is going to represent you the best, because you don't get to vote on every little thing that happens. They vote on every little thing that happens. But you try to bring in people who are going to best represent your state, so everybody get involved and vote. They don't even have a republic in Krakoa. It's like Professor X says, well, this is the way that things are going to be. And I'll take advisement from my close friends and people who I've, battled to the death with on several occasions. Excuse me. So, yeah, no, it's not a democracy or a republic at all. This is a shadow council. I mean, like they say in the name, it just sounds shady. It sounds shifty. And realistically, it's not even like an oligarchy. This is or a plutocracy, which it can almost seem like. No, this is like Moira is technically controlling everybody. So it's more like a puppetocracy. I'm quoting that. So in this particular one, you get the thing with what's her name? Melody Guthrie. Shisha Arrow, the original Arrow. She wakes up and she's all like, "Hey, what's up?" And everybody's like, "Oh, it's going to be today." And she's like, "Crucible." So you go through half this book wondering, what is Crucible? What is the Matrix? This issue is called Life Death, like compound word, Life Death. Jonathan Hickman writes this book, Lanil Francis Yu on art, Sunny Rowe on colors, letters by VC's Clayton Cowles, Tom Mueller does the design, Lanil Francis Yu and Sunny Rowe do the cover art, Mike Del Mundo does the variant, Nick Russell on production, and boom, we're good from there. So, we we get a fun little part in the beginning ish with Wolverine and Scott hanging out, and yeah, they're looking at the art, and Scott is having fun hanging out with, like, he's kind of picking at Wolverine, and he's picking back also, talking about, hey, how about you go on vacation with me and Jean and a couple of the others? You know what I'm saying? Let's go hang out. And he's like, it's not really my style. I'd rather sit here and brood. It's like, I don't know. There could be some good stuff out there. And he thinks, Genie in a bikini. Good little rhyme, right? Scott right away turns around with Scott in a Speedo. He could have said Scotto in a Speedo, but whatever. He's just Scott in a Speedo. It's like, okay, there, banana hammock. Why don't you just calm down there, bud? So anyway, that was actually interesting that he says Genie in a bikini, and he's not like, hey, watch it. That's my woman. He doesn't say anything like that. I'm saying there's something going on. There's something going on. At some point, somebody's going to like completely pull the rug out from under us. But until then, now here's something that I didn't talk about at all. And this is actually my favorite scene from the entire thing. Y'all know Cypher, right? And that's either Groot or it's part of Krakoa right there. But I think it's just part of Krakoa. And because it, for the most part just disappears and it looks like it's just Cypher by himself. But Cypher by himself, and up here we actually see Warlock. Warlock is up there with his big old self-friend smile. And look at it even closer. Regular arm, Warlock arm. I don't know if you guys can see that good enough. Regular arm, Warlock arm. When Scott goes and takes his little double take. There's something happening. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm interested in seeing it. Like I said, there's some weird stuff going on. And Krakoa is that, like, Krakoa is also like closed his eyes. So it just, come on. Krakoa has also closed its eyes and just looks like it's a regular old tree or whatever. But up here, it's clearly Krakoa, having a conversation with him. Maybe it's Aroka, whatever. But anyway, there's something going on. All right, there's something happening. Something's rotten in Denmark, so to speak, to quote a little bit of Hamlet here. So these guys, yeah, I've been saying for a while. A couple other people have been agreeing with me. Crazy freaking stuff happening here. These guys, they've got something happening. Krakoa is not what the people think that it is. I don't know if Professor X knows what's going on or doesn't know what's going on, but something's going on. Something's going on. There's actually a really good point made right there. Don't trust Warlock. But what do you call it? Right there? No, not Deputy Sheriff's thing. Scott Fitzgerald's thing. What the frick? Oh yeah, Scott Fitzgerald goes and points out. Also, Warlock is a technarch. Yes, think about that. It's not just about the idea of the techno-organic virus. You think about what the technarch actually is. In many regards, this is very closely tied with what's happening with the humans in the far, far distant future. Look at how all of this stuff is tying in. And if you've actually got Warlock as one of these associated with Krakoa, and for some reason the X-Men, oh, the mutants, always lose, maybe the key is taking out Cypher. Maybe the key is separating that techno-organic virus-ish thing from Cypher because it's Warlock or something else. What if that's because literally he's tuned into the entire system. And as much as Professor X and any, with Cerebro and anything else that's going on can understand the empathy of Krakoa, Cypher's the only one that can actually make the actual conversation with everybody. Cypher's the only person who can genuinely put in all of the, through one of the telepaths, put in the actual true translation of what Krakoa is saying. Because there's the Krakoan language, then there's this, the written stuff, then there's the spoken stuff that can't actually be spoken out loud. To most people, Apocalypse not so, but to everybody else, it's open. Now, Apocalypse also knows Krakoa better than anybody else out there. But you look at what's happening with Cypher, man. That right there, oh, that's something special. Okay, so now we've seen this before. We've seen this thing before in a couple other issues. Again, Wilfredo from Comics Expertise points out that we've seen this thing before on the merger of the two islands, but we've also seen this at the end of Pox of Powers of 10. I think that was also issue number 5. Somebody just mentioned it recently. Thank you for that. Actually, I think I could find that right here. Who originally said that to me? It was just very recently. Um, YA. YA. So I guess that's like young adult. I don't know, but just replied to me not so long ago that it was issue number 5 of Powers of X. That we saw that thing before. Back when Emma was talking with Professor X and Magneto, like I was talking about before, they were saying, "Hey, will you take over the Hellfire Club and actually make it as you'll be the White Queen again, and you guys will actually be in charge of such and such?" Yeah, that conversation. They were in the exact same position, like the exact same position that Nightcrawler is in right now. So Scott goes up. That's where he finally finds Nightcrawler. He's looking. There's the really funny thing about Wolverine telling Scott, "Oh, somebody, I don't know who, somebody tried to, cut their way in, and it kept on reclosing on them, so they weren't able to get in." So Scott's trying to, recycle that story and tell it to Nightcrawler. And of course, Nightcrawler was up here watching, so he saw Wolverine doing this. So he's just like, "It was Wolverine," and Scott's like, "It was Wolverine. Of course, it was Wolverine. Duh." Anyway, so Wolverine couldn't get in, but Nightcrawler could. Kurt was able to get in because he took a leap of faith, a blind faith. He just said, "You know what? Either I can get in or I can't." And he just teleported into what he thought was the middle of it. And, well, I didn't teleport into anything, so I'm good. But, yeah, wow, this is interesting. And he basically sees exactly what he wants to see. He sees a chapel. Now, again, maybe it's the idea that this thing appears to be whatever anybody wants it to be. Maybe Wolverine can't get in because he wasn't meant to be in because he doesn't believe that he's worthy of getting in. Who knows? Maybe, maybe this is tied into Wolverine not wanting to go on vacation. Everything has to be a threat. That's why, don't forget, Wolverine was around and he saved Hank McCoy from that monster that appeared and tried to kill Hank, the Beast. And Wolverine was there to save the day. What if Wolverine never showed up? This is literally, in my mind, this is like, which came first, Batman or the crime in Gotham City? Because technically there was crime, but no more crime than anybody else. But once Batman showed up, that's when you see the Joker and all these other creatures. Very similar to the what do you call it? The Spider-Man thing. Dr. Octopus and Electro and Sandman were technically, I guess, around, but it wasn't until Spider-Man showed up, right? Technically the Fantastic Four. So does the hero precede the major crime, or is it just like a crime escalates sort of thing? Oh, here's a Batman, so now we need a Joker. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we've got a bigger Bat family. We're going to need more criminals. Is that is it the universe trying to course correct itself, so to speak? Is that what we're essentially seeing here also? Either way, Kurt is able to get in, and maybe this temple is really just this ivory temple is just for him. I don't know, We don't know yet, but he sees this beautiful church and it's amazing. And later on, he starts talking about religion. Oh my. Oh, I can't wait to tell you. I talked to a couple of people on Discord, like 5 people on Discord about this. I'm going to go crazy with this. So Exodus shows up and he's like, hey, we finally see what Exodus was on the island for in the first place, right? Because we saw him getting summoned and then he showed up and he was like, hey, what's going on? Betsy Braddock in the Excalibur book. Hey, why is Exodus here? Apocalypse is like, because he can be. It's like, well, cool. Well, we see here, he's talking to the kids about the Great Pretender. All of these little kids, they're talking about the pretend, and they've got a ritualistic chant going on, like they're already brainwashed. She's the pretender. She's not a real mutant. She's not. Who knows what she is at this point? Is she an inhuman? Who knows? Whatever, who cares? But she's not one of us. But she acted like she was. Acted like she was the daughter of Magneto. What's up with that? Maybe Quicksilver's going to run into the same problem. But he didn't say no more mutants. She did. I hope I didn't actually hurt anybody with that whistle. Sorry. Anyway, so that's the conversation. They're talking about the Great Pretender, and these kids hate her. No more. No more. Like look at the similarity here. Here's this panel in between of him talking of Exodus talking to them, but you see one version of the kids and then the next, and they're the same things, but they've got different things to say. No more mutants. No more. When we get rid of her, like they are captivated. Woof. So then we actually finally see what Crucible is. We see that Arrow goes up to this gladiatorial arena, and here's Apocalypse. Apocalypse, this cult figure, this cult leader type character, and he's just like, "Hey, what's up? You don't have your powers because you lost your powers in the M-Day event because of the Great Pretender. Only 198 mutants kept their powers. Lots of mutants fell out of the sky because they were flying, and then no more mutants. Squish." But a lot of people just whatever. Now, if you remember with Arrow specifically, she was like, no, I still have my powers, and she jumped out, and she was saved at the last minute. Lucky her. That wasn't the case with a few mutants. So she did get to stick around, but she just wound up living with her mom, whatever. And it's like, you're not a mutant anymore. And Apocalypse really does her dirty, really makes her feel like she doesn't fit in. You're not a mutant. You don't have to go through this crucible. You don't have to die and get reborn as a clone in order to come back. But you'll stay a mutant if you don't. If you come back, you'll be a mutant again. But if you stay like this, you will forever, and you could stay here because you were one of us, and it's not your fault. You didn't choose to not be one of us by taking one of the drugs or anything. But you will not actually be one of us. You'll just be a stranger on the island, is what it is. And she's like, no, I'm going to be a mutant. Now, technically, any psychic could come along and just be like, you know what I'm saying? Bloop, just a little blip, and then turn her brain off, and then incinerate her, and then bring her back, right? But Apocalypse has other plans in mind. And mind you, Magneto and Professor X are both in the audience watching, along with Sam Guthrie. So he's watching this stuff happen to his sister. And everybody's like, hold him back. He's like, hold me back. They're like, we're holding you back. Like, dude, he's pissed at Apocalypse. And I would love to see that fight. Also, I did notice Selene over here, right above my ring finger. Interesting. Selene is right up there with Dakin. Okay, interesting. So they are actually on the island. Good to know. So anyway, they wind up getting to this big old sword fight. I mean, seriously, would it be interesting if she took out Apocalypse? They'd be like, so can I stay me now? He'd be like, you must fight me again. Like, come on, man. So anyway, yes, Derek McElroy, they do want the depowered mutants to earn it. By they, we're specifically talking about this freaking guy. Boom. So she winds up losing the fight. She's, dude, like she's beat. It's like, should I just take your head or do you want to keep on fighting? And she's like, I'm gonna kick your butt. And he just like, bloop, kills her. Like she's trying to bare knuckle it at one point, man. And he just look at it. Like he just pounds the living crap out of her. Look at it. This seriously, these 3 images, they look, you know what they remind me of? Arpaio and DiCarlo drawing that Jim Starlin thing with the Joker beating to death, what do you call that? Robin, and killing him. Like, well, he actually didn't die. There was the bomb that killed him. But you get what I'm saying? Those 3 panels where it's like, "You've been a bad boy," and you just see the blood and stuff like that, and he's like this again. It's like, oh my god! And this brought me right back to that. He pounds the crap out of her, pounds the tar out of her, and she still gets up and she's like, "I'm still ready to fight, brah, brah." And then he just puts the sword into her, does her dirty. You see the black on both sides, and then she comes back through and it's like, "Hey, you're back." She's all buck naked, but then she flies. And it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. She does her flight thing again. Maybe we're going to see some more things from her because the Guthrie family is about as interesting gets. You know what I'm saying? And they just never do enough. I want to see more Husk. I want to see more Sam Guthrie. In fact, honestly, let him stay away for a while when he comes back for something really important. But for now, like I really want to see a lot more of the Guthrie family. So this would be really fun to see. Anyway, excuse me. So they're doing what they're doing, and yeah, she flies up, and it's like, "Hey, I can fly, I can fly, I can fly." And Apocalypse welcomes her back. She's like, "Thank you." He's like, "Don't." Like, it's actually beautiful because look at his face. He just went from bloodthirsty to, "No, it's fine, my darling." And she's like, "Thank you anyways." He's like, "It's okay, you've earned it," all that good stuff. Still, thank you. Then she flies. Kurt says something interesting because Kurt and Scott, that's pretty much the whole comic book, is Kurt and Scott having a conversation with each other. And it's mostly Scott, or excuse me, it's mostly Kurt talking. And Scott says, "Right or wrong, it sure is something, isn't it?" And he's like, Kurt, he's like, "Yes, yes, it is." "Scott?" And Scott says, "Yes." Kurt says, "I think I need to start a mutant religion." Okay, interesting. But this doesn't sound like my Kurt Wagner personally. So here's where I'm going to get into how I would write this. I don't want Kurt to write his own or to make his own religion. I don't think he should be sitting there making his own, mutant religion because that's not really what faith is. Like, what was your faith if you could just say, "Oh, well, there's all mutants here now, so let's change the religion up"? No, I really just don't see that. I don't. But here's what I think. I think that um, he should start talking about we should have our own version of religion and talk about it. And then when the people start, gravitating and saying, "Yes, yes, yes, do it, such and such and such," and maybe saying, "Well, I still want it to be based on my religion." It's just the idea. Like, I see him saying something like, think about gay people who are Christian, gay people who are all sorts of different religions. When you look at the Levitican law, homosexuality is called an abomination. All right. Granted, the very next law, the very next Levitican law is that eating shellfish is also an abomination, exact same punishment. Anybody here a hardcore Christian and eat shrimp? I'm saying. So, what do you call it? Like, it is what it is. But the Old Testament and there was no change for that in Christianity. You could argue there's a change for that in Pauline doctrine in the New Testament, but there is no change for the homosexuality part in the New Testament. Paul still thinks, "Oh no, yeah, gay people should be wiped out or whatever." So, what do you call it? And the best you're going to get for the most part is hate the sin but love the sinner. Sure, way to ostracize people. So but there's still a lot of gay Christians, a lot of Christians who are gay. And how do they handle it? Well, they handle it by trying to, fix things over a little bit. They try and, it's like, okay, listen, they try to explain away certain things in order to justify their existence. I think that's something very similar to what Kurt would do. He would look at it as, "Listen, I'm still a Christian, but I think that we should incorporate a way for God, for how God would explain us being here. How do we explain mutants being here? Just like the Bible. Start looking into it. Like, how do you explain dinosaurs when scientists started discovering, archaeologists started discovering these big, gigantic lizard bones everywhere? There's always the idea of trying to explain something through the religion. Kurt saying I want to start my own religion is a little bit no, but I could see him maybe like a different version, like his own take on it. In every single religion, there's always interpretation. So I would want to see Kurt want to do an interpretation of the religion, and then I would want to see Apocalypse take it over and going a little bit too far. Oh, exactly. See, you're with me on this, Scott. Follow along with me because I think this is fun. Um, so Kurt doesn't want to become an actual like cult leader. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be. He'd rather be priest Kurt instead of Pope Kurt. That's the Kurt that I know. That's the Nightcrawler that I know personally. But Apocalypse is like, oh, I'll be the priest. I'll be the bishop. I'll be the archdiocese. I'll be the mother effing papal policy writer. All right. I will be the Pope. I'll get my own little Pope mobile. I will be the Pope. Yeah. I can 100% see Apocalypse doing that. So Apocalypse winds up doing, like, the people start asking Kurt for things, and Kurt's just like, listen, it's not through me, it's through the Father, whatever, that sort of thing, like that Jesus sort of thing. He keeps that Christ-like mentality that Kurt has always kept. However, what do you call it? Yeah, Apocalypse having a religious following has legs, right? Makoseda? I hope I pronounced that right. Sorry if I didn't. So I could see it really running away with, Apocalypse just talking. He's got that powerful voice. He's changed his name to the Krakoan language, right? That I always make fun of, but in a good way. I make light of it, I should say. I don't make fun of it. What do you call it? So I see him doing that. I see Apocalypse running away with it, and the people needing a strong leader. Because remember, the X-Men have separated. The X-Men feel safe-ish on this island full of mutants. Oh crap, Genosha. So it's kind of like a false sense of security. Maybe it even slips that, hey, there's some rumors that the psychics aren't around, or excuse me, the precogs aren't around. But somebody let it slip that maybe we don't win, that we still wind up losing here, that somebody saw the future and we're all going to wind up being killed and we can't stay here anyway. Maybe, right? But more and more of a reason for a religious leader like Apocalypse to come by and say, no, children, we're fine. This is where you need that Apocalypse type figure, or at least where most of the people need an Apocalypse like figure. You need somebody strong to rally behind. You need that strongman figure. And you can make your political comparisons, whatever you want to do, but 100% Apocalypse is that guy. But here's the problem. You know who Apocalypse is. And he's still going to have the best interests of the mutants in his mind. But he's all about evolution, survival of the fittest. And you've seen the way that he's talked about the future of humans. You're not in our future. You're just not. We tolerate you for now. Be happy while we do. And that's the kind of tough guy talk that a lot of hardline mutants are going to want to hear, so they can actually feel safe and secure for once, especially amongst the Morlocks. Imagine that. Imagine him being like their brown shirts in many ways. Now, Kurt is always the peaceful one. So Kurt, while he's down and he's one of the priests and he's trying to, spread the gospel of Apocalypse, so to speak, which is still in line with his Christianity, but, not quite. Kurt winds up having a couple of dissenting opinions. Like, okay, that's a little extreme. And while he's talking to some people, maybe he leaves, he goes off on his own. And, once in a while, some people come up to him. And a lot of people aren't going to agree with him. No, man, what you're saying, that's not cool, because Apocalypse is saying this and you're saying such and such. How can you even be a priest? Maybe some people even go and report back and whisper to, like, Exodus or whoever, like Apocalypse has those 4 horsemen. He's going to have his 4 horsemen again. That's going to happen soon. So he has his 4 disciples in this regard. Maybe he starts picking specifically from the Morlocks for this. Who knows? But he's going to have his own chain of people to follow him. So now at one point, Kurt finally says, listen, I don't think I could be in the religion anymore. I'm just going to go off on my own. I'm not disagreeing with you. No. And he goes off on his own. He's trying to have his own moment, maybe up by this temple. and he teleports in and he starts getting his own ideas and he still doesn't know what to do with it. Teleports out and he's just sitting there looking at it again. And maybe a kid comes up to him because the kids, that's where the answer is. The kids here, kids are easy to manipulate, right? But there's certain kids that are actually just genuinely intellectually curious. So the kids start talking to Nightcrawler. One kid, then he comes back with a friend. They come back with 4 friends. Pretty soon it's 20. And there's a whole bunch of kids there. Maybe some teenagers too. Maybe 1 or 2 adults. But the crowd keeps on getting a little bit bigger each time. And they just come to Kurt while he's off just trying to meditate on his own and trying to think about his own existence. And he's just like, I just don't think that, what Apocalypse is doing is such a great thing. I really just don't. Yes, Nero Black, and I want to write it. I want to write it. God, I wish I could. I just submitted my submission for a contest, a writing contest for a comic book. Actually, I had to put it in comic book form. Maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I think I did a pretty damn good job. For only having 2.5 weeks, less than 3 weeks to prepare for this thing while everybody else had 5 months, I think I did a pretty damn good job. Just an honorable mention would be good. I don't need to win anything. But anyway, this is what I would love to write. More than anything else in comic books right now, I want to write this story where Kurt is eventually approached. Hey, man, why, you're talking against this guy. And then pretty soon some like Professor, like Magneto and people like that start coming up. And he's like, I know who Magneto is. Magneto's not going to agree with what I'm saying. Who cares? Who cares? I can't release that script because if I win, it automatically disqualifies me if I released it early. So sorry, I can't do that. Oh, by the way, guys, this is when I'm supposed to get ready to start the thing. So yeah, I decided to do it just a little bit early. So anyway, so Magneto comes up, and Kurt can ignore Magneto. He can ignore Exodus. He can ignore just about anybody. Pretty soon, Professor X comes up to him too. Listen, Kurt, you know that I love you and you're one of my favorites. I came and I rescued you from that mad crowd back in Giant Size X-Men #1, fourth wall breaking. I rescued you from that crowd, so you'd be good. You'd be good. I love you. But I think that, realistically, we need unity on this island. And you had your chance to be the religious leader and you didn't want it. And the people chose Apocalypse. He stepped forward when you stepped back. So I think that maybe just get behind him or just stop having these little sessions with these kids because you are starting to sound like a dissenting voice. We just need unity. We don't need 2 different denominations, but that's exactly what's happening. So pretty soon, with Kurt continuing to do this and continuing to try and formulate his own, ideals, and who knows what Krakoa might do to try and propagate this further, because I don't think Krakoa has the best interest of the mutants at heart. Krakoa has its own best interests in heart. And what's and what about the religion of Warlock in and of itself? Because that's an interesting explore. But anyway, and don't forget, Madeline Pryor is supposed to return pretty soon there. Imagine what that can do and what Bar Sinister in and of itself is going to be doing also. So anyway, pretty soon, the big thing is when Apocalypse shows up to Kurt. Apocalypse finally deems it necessary to confront his fallen priest, his renegade priest directly. Kurt, far be it from me to make a threat. But right now, what it sounds like you're doing, and you know what? That conversation would just be amazing. And now Kurt realizes that's the confrontation that Kurt, I guess, needed to kickstart, and he actually starts his own religion. But much like the Christians, who I know that right now the Christian, the sign of the cross is the big thing, but in reality, the original Christians before Constantine made the cross the national symbol of Roman Christians. The Christians used to have to meet in private to talk about their gospels, and that was the symbol of the fish that you see. It's like this and then like this. You see that symbol of the fish in there, and a lot of I forget what they usually write inside of the fish, but anyway, they'll write certain things, but it's just the fish. That's the symbol that they would do on a door to indicate, hey, this is where we're going to meet in private. And the Jews had something very similar. The Muslims had something very similar. The Baha'is, almost every faith has had something very similar because every new even Martin Luther. Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King. Martin Luther actually had to hide, and how many other there were plenty of other, like, Martin Luther wasn't the first denomination to separate from the Catholic Church. You know what I'm saying? There were already the Coptics, which lost contact. There were the Greek Orthodox, there's the Russian Orthodox, all these different versions that were just separated because the Roman Empire sealed off Hadrian's Wall and all that stuff. But no, it gets even more. What do you call it? Martin Luther wasn't the first denomination to break from the Catholic Church, the Protestant movement. He wasn't the first. He was the first one who had backing from, I think it was like 5 German warlords who were like, whoa, we're going to give you some protection because we like what you're saying. Not so much tithing. Oh, we like that. 10% tax, tithing. We don't like that. Rich people like to pay less taxes. We see that right now in the elections, right? But that's the reason why Martin Luther's program actually worked. And then more were able to come afterwards. Kurt would simply be that Martin Luther, and he could be that Christ-like figure who separates and starts teaching the actual doctrine of, the idea that mutants can ascend but can live in peace. So now what do we have? You remember how we used to always talk about how Professor X and Magneto were like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X? And they were both technically fighting for the same thing. It was the methods, the means by which they wanted to attain their goal. Now you can have that again. Since Professor X and Magneto are friends, you can have that again, but with Apocalypse and Nightcrawler. I want to write this story so bad. I genuinely do. So there's actually opposing religions on there, and one clearly has much more power than the other, but this is the peaceful one. And sometimes even in peace, you still have to pick up a stick to defend yourself. Even Jesus, when he was finally taken under arrest, he said, gather swords, gather what you can. They found 2 swords. They said, Lord, is this enough? He says, yes, those 2 swords will be enough. And even then, when somebody actually did cut off the ear of one of the centurions, he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I didn't want you to actually hurt anybody. So he puts the ear back on and heals him and whatnot. I wonder what kind of authority, what kind of powers, so to speak, could that temple give to Kurt? I'm saying, if they just go with this way where Kurt just decides to make up a religion, it's just some whatever thing, who cares? But 100%, I want to write this story. I want to be the one. If they're not going to, if somebody else is going to do it, I'm happy to sit back and read it. But man, I would love, like, if they don't have that idea in their mind, God, I would love if Hickman, Marvel, whatever is like, hey, you really think you could do this? Because that sounds cool. I would love to do that. Holy crap. Make it my own offshoot and just let it go and see where this goes, man. Oof, I would love this. And I like the idea that there's a lot of people who are just like, yes, I want to read this story. Finally joined now that you have a computer again. Kraut, what's up, dude? I haven't seen you in a while there, Kraut. And of course it jumps. Boom. But yeah, I jump back up there again. Hey. Whoa. Working out there, bud, huh? So, jump down there again. Scott Fitzgerald, dope. If I have Scott's approval, I feel like I can do it because he'd correct me in a heartbeat. Do you think Mr. Sinister is the original? No, absolutely not. He's not. This is the mutant one. The original Mr. Sinister was not a mutant. Sorry, I should actually highlight that. The original Mr. Mutant, the original Nathaniel. Are you kidding me right now? I can't remember his last name. Oh, somebody in the chat help me out since I just screwed it up. Write it now. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I will write it down so you guys can read it. Nathan, oh, for crying out loud, somebody help me out in the chat because I just had him. Essex, thank you. Quantum Witch, you're awesome. And everybody in there is like, you're an idiot. It's such and such. And yes, it was a brain fart. It's kind of idiotic. It happens anyway. So yeah, the original Nathaniel Essex was not a mutant. He used to just experiment on, I guess you could say, the original Morlocks, right? But the current one is the mutant one. Excuse me. So there's that. Anyway, beat me by a second. That's all right. There's a lot of people in the chat who probably want to beat me up. How do you forget this guy's name? Mr. Sinister is one of my favorites, man. So that was a major brain fart to forget that one. But anyway, we all have them. We all have them. Just not all of us are going live when it happens. Can't edit all that stuff out and still sound like I'm a genius. And you all know I don't edit my stuff out. So anyway, yeah, I would love to write that story because I think that would sell big time. I'm talking hotcakes level. You know what I'm saying? Come and get him. I'm just throwing out hotcakes to the crowd like I'm the New Day. New day, hotcakes, hotcakes, hotcakes. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, I would be all over that. But anyway, so boom, that's pretty much it for me. I'm gonna bounce out of here, and I'm probably gonna chill out. And Raven, of course, you were doing something that you didn't jump into that also with the bill slap. It's Essex, but what do you call it? Yeah, I'm gonna bounce out of here. I think I'm gonna play some Minecraft. I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but in the community tab, I played Minecraft. I actually didn't have a good mic set up. I'm going to use this one and actually do the mic in a better way this time because that last time sucked. But yeah, anyway, so I'm going to do that, and yeah. So if you guys want to watch more of those, by all means, please let me know by just simply watching the video and hitting a like or something like that. Otherwise, I'm just going to play because I'm bored. Like not even just bored. I need to get away from everything. I have put the last 3 weeks. Why aren't there a whole lot of videos coming out? Because I have put everything I can into writing for this Top Cow contest. You know, Top Cow, the guys who created Witchblade. They also created The Darkness. The deadline is tomorrow, and I wanted to make sure I got it before the deadline was up. So I submitted it today. A whole lot of work. I had to write 20 pages in comic book script form. So 20 comic book pages, it actually came to about 38 Word document pages to put all this stuff together. But I kicked my freaking butt, my own butt, just walking like a gook and just kicking my own butt every single time I take a step, because like everything I was doing was for the most part, like 90% of my free time was focused around writing that comic book. You know what I'm saying? Putting the stuff together, researching the stuff. Whew, forget about it. So I wrote a story. I'm not going to win. All right. Let's just, I know there's a lot of people saying, no, 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 you could win. Yeah, I'm sure. And pigs could fly also if you shoot them out of a cannon. I had 3 weeks to do what everybody else had 5 months to do. I'm not going to freaking win, but it doesn't matter. The idea is that I was able to put the script together because I was under the gun to do this. So I had a lot of comic books that I didn't put out. A lot of comic book reviews that I didn't do for the past couple of weeks. Everybody's like, what's going on? I had to limit everything I was doing so that I could make this deadline. And I barely freaking made this deadline. Anyway, I had to walk in a freaking storm today to go and get stuff scanned because I don't have a proper scanner. I do now, because I was like, I'm not doing that again. But I had to walk in three city blocks to get to a place that actually has a scanner from where I'm at in order to get done what I had to get done. But whatever. And then of course I had to walk back. But I was determined to get this freaking thing done, and I did it, and I'm really happy with it. So April 1st, they're going to reveal the winners, and once that happens, boom, we good after that. I can if I win, I can't release it because they're going to want it to be published, and they've only got a winner and a runner up. That's all they've got. But if I am not one of those two people, I can just release the script to you guys, and you guys can actually look at it. Actually, I'll probably put it together in an actual comic book format, maybe try and get somebody to draw it up. Maybe I can draw it up myself, who knows. Anyway, put all that stuff together, then bada bang. You know what I'm saying? It could actually be fun, because I really liked the script. I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. But anyway, worst case scenario, maybe that could be my test format for Marvel, and be like, so can I write this story? Because I really do want to see some way or another, Kurt versus Apocalypse, the new Magneto, and or actually Professor X and Magneto, respectively. Thank you for all the luck. Some of you guys are wishing me. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys later. For now, I am freaking out. Agreed, Derek. It was pretty good. Looking forward to reading it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. At least runner up would be nice, but again, either way, at least I did this. At least like this is something I've actually done. This is the first comic book in comic book script format that I've actually done, and that sucks because you've got to write to the artist and to the letterer, and everybody, and the editor still has to understand also. So there's a lot of stuff involved. Anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.